That's great. Thank you, Susan. It's great to see such a good turnout for this event, and so as Susan was saying, I've been asked to come along and speak today about the new Siege Museum, the progress and also the restoration of the Apprentice Boys Memorial Hall. So just to begin with, I just wanted to talk a bit about just where we are at the moment. Sorry, I just hear someone saying this here. I'm aware I'm quite quietly spoken, so I'll try and raise my voice as much. Can you guys hear me okay at the back? Yeah, that's okay. So just a bit about where we're at the minute, an update on the progress of the new build, the restoration work to the Memorial Hall. So just to give you some information now on just where we're at the minute. So the temporary exhibition for the Siege Museum is based in St Augustine's Hall, just over on Palace Street. While the restoration work to Memorial Hall and the new museum was being built, this is where we were stationed. So we've got a small selection of artefacts on display, and we've also got some interesting audiovisual for visitors. At our temporary exhibition, we offer guided tours, and then we also visitors can come in and take a look around on their own, but we've got guides available to talk you through. And currently the admission into the temporary exhibition is free, so if anyone's available later on, it should be open and you should head over and take a look around if you haven't already done so. So just moving on, so that's where we are at present. So but how did we get there? So for many years around the time of their different commemorations and parades, the Apprentice Boys, along with others in the community, were very aware of a rise in tensions and an escalation in tensions, and they wanted to do something about this. So a few years back, they decided to open up the doors of the Memorial Hall, and they held guided tours around the different meeting rooms, but they also started up a small exhibition area within the Apprentice Boys Memorial Hall. They wanted to promote greater levels of respect and also understanding within all sections of the community. From this venture, the Apprentice Boys realised it was very successful for them. A lot of people were interested from all sections of the community about what went on within the Memorial Hall, and also just what about the siege was about, the history of the siege. So this then led on to them a successful venture into them getting funding. So the funding was from the Special Europeans Programmes body, also from Tourism Northern Ireland, the Northern Ireland Environmental Agency, and also from the Heritage Lottery Fund. The Heritage Lottery Fund is what I'm in through, and also our Education and Community Outreach Officer, Stephanie, as well. And our main aim is about learning and participation through the new museum. The restoration of the Memorial Hall and the construction of the new museum was launched in October 2014, and this was after an 8-week archaeological dig. Something which I have actually found out myself from starting to work with the Siege Museum is during the 8-week archaeological dig, one of the earliest dated buildings within the city was found on the site of the new Siege Museum. So I don't know if that's news to anybody, but I find it very, very interesting. From my background. So the images here just show you some snapshots. I've got images with me today that afterwards you can take a closer look, but just to give you some information on the building that was found. So the building, which predates the walled city, was discovered during the 8-week archaeological dig in the area which was formerly occupied by Walker Memorial Garden, and this is now where the new museum stands. The building, of which only a very small part survived, had stone foundations and a cellar above, and the upper floors would have been constructed of timber. The building's alignment is east-west and has been dated to the early 1600s. The east-west alignment is radically different to the present-day walled city pattern. So the building reflects the earlier street pattern which pre-existed the plantation town of Londonderry, and it is believed that the building was burnt down prior to the construction of the walled city. And what they believed to be the best fit event for this would have been the 1608 O'Doherty Rebellion. So again, as I was saying, this is just some images. Unfortunately, the new museum, under the different construction deadlines, had to be built on top. There wasn't really any contingency plan for such a find. But we've got lots of images, and we plan to have interpretation within the new museum to reflect this find, because I feel for the city itself it's very important. So just moving on. Again, during the 2014 excavation, there was a collection of artefacts were unearthed. They include musket balls, a small cannonball, pottery shards, clay pipes, and also a rarity on archaeological digs, some intact wine bottles, so which date back to the 1600s as well. The earliest find was a shard of medieval pottery, which was dated from 1200 to 1400 AD. And again, some of the objects which we have here will be on display in the new museum with interpretation. So just deviated slightly there from the museum, but I find this quite interesting. I hope you all do too. And again, for the new museum opening, we will have all this interpreted inside of the museum. So just back to the progress of the museum. So here are some of the artist's impressions of what the new museum will look like. And currently to date, the restoration to the Apprentice Boys Memorial Hall is now complete, and the Memorial Hall has been handed back over to the Apprentice Boys for their commemorations this week, and also for the Maiden City Festival. The new museum is in its final stage of construction work, and the interpretive designers will be heading in soon for the fit out. As Susan was saying there, the museum is expected to open at the end of September, start of October, if all goes to plan, so keep your fingers crossed for us. If anyone has been past down Society Street recently, you'll see that the museum really is starting to take shape, and the artist's impressions really reflect this. Ultimately, it is hoped that this new regeneration project will create a new public space in which all communities can come together and which they can learn from each other and understand. So moving on then into the inside of the museum. Again, these are artists' impressions of how the new museum will be interpreted and the different style inside. The new museum will consist of a ground floor shared space where our reception area will be located. There will also be a city or a timeline of the city within this shared space, and we hope to bring in community groups and different lectures and talks like this into the new museum, so that it can be a space that everyone can use and utilise. On the first and second floors, visitors will be able to explore the history of the siege, the formation of the Apprentice Boys of Derry, and also their modern day commemorations. And this will be through a series of interactive and stationary interpretation, which is currently being designed by our interpretive designers, Martello Media. I don't know if anybody knows this, but Martello Media are were the interpretive designers for the Guinness Storehouse in Dublin. So we're really looking forward to the end product, as the Guinness Storehouse is Ireland's biggest visitor attraction. So we're really looking forward to the end result. The second floor will also include a library area and workspace area for researchers, and it will also be an area that we will carry out our family genealogy work, which I'll talk a bit about later on. Although the new museum will be free flow, so visitors can come in and take a look around at their own leisure, we will also offer guided tours to our visitors, not only of the museum but also of the Apprentice Boys Memorial Hall and also of the walls, and to highlight siege-related areas within the city. So that's our future plans for the museum. So just moving on to just what we're working on at the moment. So through our Heritage Lottery funding, we've been able to work with local youth and community groups. So myself and Stephanie, the education officer, we've only been in position now a few months. So really trying to kick off the ground, working with these groups. We're working on educational resources as well to be able to go out into the schools in the coming school year. And we hope to have all that finalised in September to move out and launch into the schools. We want to be able to raise awareness, understanding, and also the visibility of the unique heritage of the siege. So some of these images here show another brick in the wall workshop which we did with kids from different community groups, and which was very successful for us. We also did a breaking of the boom workshops, and this was over May and June time, which then resulted in us being able to hold an event to remember the breaking of the boom there on the 28th of July. This also coincided with the launch of the Maiden City Festival, which we're all able to do together, and we got great coverage on the news for it, and it was great to involve the children, and I suppose just arts and crafts, you know, they all just would like to be involved in the arts and crafts, and then if you can bring in a historical side and it educates, it's good for all. Another piece that we've been working on, which is actually being held tomorrow, will be our epic excavation on the wall. It's part of the Maiden City Festival, and we're running it alongside Archaeology NI. It's going to be a really fun and engaging event. Again, it's bringing in participation from children with a learning aspect as well. It enhances the recreational learning opportunities for local children and community groups, and again it's free of charge, so if anyone has anyone that they would like to bring along tomorrow to our epic excavation, you're all more than welcome. Moving on there, I had mentioned the family history project and the genealogical work that we'll be doing within the museum. We're in the very early stages of this part of our project, but the main aspect of the family history project will focus on the 13 apprentice boys, but also other key figures involved in all sides of the siege. What we plan to do with this history project is to hold a series of workshops where we're going to provide tips on how to trace your ancestral links to the siege. We're going to be doing this alongside the Foyle Family History Centre, and these workshops will take place in September and also in October and December, then moving into the new year as well. So our main hopes is to establish a central database to allow people to build their own siege family tree. So again, anyone that would like any information on this or would like to join our database for email shots for our newsletters, which we'll be developing over the next year, do speak to me afterwards and I can take your details from you. Ultimately, we hope that this project increases the level of engagement with the heritage and activities of the Siege Museum. Just to finally end, ultimately we hope that the new museum, the new Siege Museum, will add to Derry's rich and diverse cultural tourism offering, and that would be firstly by engaging, secondly by educating, and then also by enriching all about the history of the siege, the Apprentice Boys of Derry and their commemorations. So thank you very much for your time for listening today. That was very short and sweet, and again I'll be able to take any questions that you may have about our community work that we're going to be doing and also about the new Siege Museum.
My name is Keith. My name's Keith Wright. Going on from what Lynsey was saying about genealogy, I am the director of Foyle Family History Centre, which I'm working alongside Lynsey and Stephanie. And what the project that Lynsey was talking about is we're trying to trace the descendants of the original 13 apprentice boys or key players in the siege. It doesn't matter what side they were on. You know, myself, I have found Captain Samuel Wright came into Derry in 1630 and was part of the siege, part of the later siege, and he ended up in Calais. So it's a very interesting project. There is information in Derry going back to 1820s. I have a book in the centre going back to 1632. Everyone in Derry in 1632 inside the walls are listed in those books, and you've got streets like Silver Street and all those old streets that are not here now, and I've got a transcript of that book. So if anyone's looking into the genealogy aspect, I'll see Lynsey, or you can chat to me today before I leave. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Anybody any questions? Any other questions? For Lynsey? Go ahead there.
Dennis wants to know how much it is to get to the museum.
Dennis doesn't want to speak for himself these days.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just from my background is in tourism, so I've extensively researched the different museums, visitor centres, not just in Northern Ireland but also within the city. The admission to start off with is going to be £4 per person. So again, that when we have scheduled tours on, you'll be able to go on the scheduled tours within that admission. I think the museum is going to offer a lot of different interactive aspects to it. It's going to be brand new. And again, as I said, Martello Media really at the top of their game. So I think it's going to be, or I know it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth the admission. But we're pretty fluid with how we move with it. So that's what we're going to do at the start. But we may, we'll change with the times. We're going to stay current with it.
I suppose it has to, £4 per head's never going to pay for itself.
Well, that's it, yeah.
But I think you're right in as much as I think it used to be £2 for a tour of the Apprentice Boys.
Yeah.
So you're probably getting pretty good value for £4.
That's it. It's a brand new facility. Ultimately, our main goal, if which we want to be, is to some amount sustainable on our own. So we've got to try and bring in cash flow.
The question about ownership of the Siege Museum, is that now in conjunction with the Apprentice Boys, or is that to be now outside?
I suppose it would be 50-50, you could say. And the Siege Museum is going to be a tourism product. Visit Derry are going to be marketing us. We're going to be there for international visitors to the town, but also, we are there for the local people. And again, with the admission charges, we'd like to think that what counteracts it would be the education and community work that we're going to be doing for free. In terms of the Siege Museum and the links to the Apprentice Boys, I think they're fairly intrinsically linked. It was the Apprentice Boys that went and got the funding for the new museum, and they are on the management committee, so their opinions matter to the new museum.
Right,
Did that answer your question? Okay.
I think it's a 50-50, what you said, in conjunction with partnership. Because they ran wall city tours and stuff like that there to supplement their own income. Whereas now you are looking for income specifically just for the Siege Museum.
Which again, the Siege Museum is going to be promoting an understanding of a different culture, so again it'll be beneficial for the Apprentice Boys.
And will there be collaboration with other museums like in London, in Dublin, and let's say methods of display and things like the Titanic, which will go out of date, but at the moment it's one of the newer types of technology that display items. Because when I was in London, the Roger Gold was on show in the museum in London, the City of London, and now it's being returned, or is returned, to Limavady. It's that type of example. This works in conjunction. So there'll be other museums. We were talking about the Siege. One of my ancestors was cut down Calvary towards Calais, and that family took a sword that is now on display in a museum in Chicago. That's why I'm asking about collaboration with.
The Siege Museum and the Apprentice Boys have done a brilliant job to get where they've gotten so far. What we're doing now is coming in and just taking it that step further. We're working towards getting museum accreditation. So basically what that means is we've been working closely with the council, but also with different museums like the Museum of Free Derry and also with ours, Colmkill. But what we eventually will be able to do through museum accreditation is that once we have paperwork and bureaucracy all in line, then we can start to bring in different exhibitions and start to loan objects, so that the museum, even though you have visited it once, when you come on back on your second visit, it could be totally different. There will be something different in the exhibition area. It's to keep it moving and forward and to encourage repeat visitors from the time back in. Is that?
No problem.
Yeah.
So how far in of the building does that actual museum go? Is it a floor and then another floor? Or?
Yes, the museum is just on Society Street here and just beside the Memorial Hall, so it's actually based over 3 floors.
Yes.
So it's quite a spacious area.
There'll be a sort of cafe at the top, or was that?
No cafe just yet. We'll see.
You were saying about so you have a temporary exhibition space then?
Yeah.
So what are your first plans for that? Do you have anything to start off with?
At the minute in the temporary exhibition, it really is just where we are at the moment. Moving into the new museum, there will be different objects on display that are currently in storage. So the temporary exhibition is just sort of there for us to hold until the end of September when we start to move into the new museum.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, within the new museum, like
Oh, yes.
the
temporary.
Yeah, your exhibition
Yeah,
space.
well, that's it. Yeah, we're just at the start of that stage where we want to bring in any different exhibitions. There's one that the Causeway Coast and Glens Council have just done recently, and it's about engaging with visually impaired visitors. So I know that the Tower Museum had that exhibition for a little while, so again we're looking towards bringing in different exhibitions and also holding lectures and things like that.
Will the new facility have languages, translations for you be able to pick up something or go around and hear it on a piece of equipment?
I mean, we're still very much in the planning stage of how the interpretation will be. So at the moment it's just going to be fairly basic. But in our future plans, and definitely in my plans for the museum, I want to extend out into different languages to appeal to a wider audience.
Lynsey, are there any plans to open on a Sunday? Because I'm very conscious that, when there are visitors in the city, particularly across the summer months, you don't want to see them wandering around on a Sunday with nowhere to go.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a conversation that we're currently having. No definite decisions have been made just yet, but ideally we would like to be able to open up, say, in the afternoon. From my past in the industry that I work in, Sunday opening was the norm. So it's quite strange for it not to be, to me anyway. So definitely it's a conversation we're having. So just watch this space.
It's not unusual because this day there's a museum in Armagh called the Royal Irish Fusiliers Museum. It's closed down at weekends and public holidays. And it's that frustration because I went on a trip with the Northern Ireland Tourist Board, and one of the visits you had 3 to choose from to go on. I only wanted to go to one museum, and they told me, no, it's closed.
No.
And that's what they're talking about. It's the fact is that
Two museums are closed in Derry. The Amelia Earhart Museum is fascinating, but maybe the fact that it's out of the city centre. And the Railway Museum couldn't afford to keep staff on.
That's right.
Would there be any chance of group short payment for children? Yeah,
yep.
For
no, definitely. When I said the admission was £4, that's for an adult.
Yeah.
Then you move down to £2 for a child, and then a group of 15 plus people will be £3.
What about old age pensioners?
Concessionary rate is £2.
Well done. Sorry.
Don't worry, we've thought about it all.
Exactly.
But also I think £4 as a visitor is very cheap, because when you come to the city, for example, I'm from Toronto right now, and to get into the museum you're paying $20 and more, and then you also have to pay for the parking.
Yep.
So that's really reasonable. It's definitely value for money.
Yeah, well, I think so. So hopefully it works for us.
And start softly.
Yeah.
Any other questions, folks? I think that was very.
No, thank you.